I've been given this enormous gift, which I wanted my whole life. All I wanted to do was sing. But is that somehow going to take something else from me that I would love to have?
Congratulations, what a beautiful and heavy and amazing body of music.
Thank you.
I almost shy away
so
from
much.
calling it a record because that would give it sort of an infrastructure of definition that falls into line with other records. And it isn't. It feels to me like it was just a necessity, a very important thing for you to dive into your curiosity and learn about yourself, and a lot of life going on in this album.
Yeah, I think there was basically an urgency to this record. It kind of it came out of me in this furious burst. And it's one of those records where if I hadn't have put it out now, it never would have come out. Because I think I would have, how I felt about things is so specific to this moment in time, and this record kind of roared out of me. And it was a record that was made almost like a coping mechanism. And I think, as with all records, there's usually a period of time where you think it's never going to get finished or never going to get made, or you can't find the right person to work with, or you thought you were going to work with one producer and then they're not available, and then you're like, oh God, who am I going to
Yeah, you're an infrastructure, and
and then you think the record is just not happening.
Yeah.
And there was this oh, we can delay it. I was like, there's no delaying this one. It's either now or this record never comes out. I will not feel the way that I feel about this in a couple of years. So there was this ferocious urgency to this one. I sort of almost made it in a fog, I think. I did think I had quite a lot. Was still processing what happened to me, and the sort of I had a level of PTSD that almost when the record was finished, I was like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, there's a record now.
Did you get a sense of that in the writing? And I feel like listening to this album, it's almost like you restrain yourself from performing these words sometimes and just speaking them is enough. They you hush them in. You find ways for the words to really hold the attention. And so was this just a process of writing before you even thought about what it would do from a song per se?
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of my, it's kind of my process, I think. A few of them were written in the room, but mostly my process is having a lot of words. I feel quite strange if I come to the studio without words. Usually what compels me to go into a studio is I have a whole song written out, or I think I had one of the greats, it's really long poem that I started writing on tour. And actually, I started sharing a notes app with Mark Bowen from Idols. And I think things started getting added to there. It was one of the greats, Kraken. I had Buckle was knocking around, and the only thing that was on that thing that we really didn't have was a song for Everybody Scream. I just had the title. So it was Florence the Machine, Everybody Scream, song to come, but this is the song.
Yeah.
But so I do have a tendency to start with words. And then sometimes that can actually be kind of hard because it's then structuring almost it's so set in what it is, that finding what it is musically can be sometimes tricky. You're oh, okay, this song is fully formed, but what the fuck does the music sound like?
It actually makes total sense, because when I listen to your music and I feel like I said, the arrangements are really always following what it is you're saying. And I know that seems like an obvious thing to say, but I don't think it is. Sometimes people go in and there's already a structure and then they just hum a melody and it's subconscious.
No,
they put the
and
words
I've seen I'm really fascinated to see people who sing gibberish and do the melody first, and I'm I think it's quite rare for me. I think I've only done that once or twice. It's quite rare for me to do that. Usually there is a story or a poem that has taken shape, and that's what I'm kind of coming into the studio with. And then you have to create the cinema, you have to with the music, create the visual of what that song is saying.
You said you wrote one of the greats, or started at least, a poem. You were writing it when you were on tour. That song is hilarious and caustic and defiant and vulnerable and all of these things that I hear in it, at least, which is just this kind of stream of consciousness of sort of,
stream of consciousness rant, like
like fuck you and I'm awesome, but man, maybe I'm not awesome enough, and how do I get awesome? And it's awesome.
like, I hate you, why don't you fancy me?
100%. So what's going on in the middle of tour, or when you're on tour, where that comes to mind and you have this feeling of sort of inadequacy meets defiance?
Yeah, I think that is like, I think it sums up the song quite well. The song is constantly throwing itself under the bus as well. It's like, I'm this, I'm that, and about the cycle of like, I'm the best, I'm the fucking worst, I'm the best, which I think is part of making things, I think I do a lot of writing on tour actually, because I like to write while I'm in motion or daydreaming, and there's dead time. But yeah, I was thinking about greatness and like the cost of greatness, and how every album I'm like, I'm going to be satisfied with this one. I'm going to be completely satisfied. I'm going to have no issues with it. And how it almost like never happens, and then at the cost of greatness as well. And I guess it was processing I feel like it was like, well, maybe I got there, but like at what cost as well? Like what cost to my sanity and to my life and to the other lives I could have had. And it was sort of about the brutality of ambition and the almost like violence of greatness as well. The things that you put yourself through and that you put your loved ones through to like get there, like every interaction or moment is sort of like fodder for the song, like you miss all these family moments, and it feels like this relentless thing of just like forgetting how hard it is, forgetting how you're never satisfied, and every time a tour and an album is over being like, I'm gonna do it again, and this one will be the one, I will be happy, it will be perfect, and I don't think, when you're young and like people aren't taking you seriously, you don't really think it's because you're a young woman. You just think it's you, you just think it's because you're annoying or you're too much or you're like, and it does really hurt early, because I see it happen now to others, and I'm like, oh, it wasn't about you, because it just feels like this cycle. But I think it happens to a lot of artists, but it seems like it happens quite particularly to young women, where they are suddenly blasted into the public sphere. And then everyone tells you that you don't deserve to be there. And I think lungs exploding when I was that young, you can't help but sort of absorb and feel like you get the big thing, but it comes at this thing of which is public exposure, and you're pushed in everyone's faces in a way that sometimes it feels like young women are just kind of eaten, you know what I mean? Like devoured, and so you're sort of pushed in front of people too much, and then everyone is like, well, actually, no, you're terrible, go away, so it just feels like this crazy thing happens to you that, for me, I think I got, which I'm so, on some level I'm so grateful for, because I still have this amazing life and I have the people that have been with me since the beginning, but it felt like I got all that attention young and then spent the next 15 years trying to prove I deserve it.
That's how you cope?
Yeah.
Or tried to cope, is just by keep going and trying to prove
I'll
it.
prove that moment, that I was worthy of that moment, So it's did I get it right? Do I win the prize,
Has this album has it broken the spell of that?
A little bit, maybe a little bit, because I think it was also, you can't help but just absorb the feeling that maybe you're not good enough, or you're not because you're not to some people's taste, that there's something wrong or you need to change or whatever. You can't help absorb that when you're young. And I do think I've had some sort of revelation just through keeping on making work and seeing the people that come to my shows, and now honestly having younger people find my work and find the biggest, craziest songs I've ever made and love them, love them. So I'm like, oh my God, there was I was doing something that people loved, it feels like, I think more and more people kind of discovering it has almost soothed so much of that early like shame about how big I was and how kind of like expressive I was. So that's been like really healing. And I think I'm realizing that, oh, it's for them, and for the people who it's not for, it's just not for them. And that's okay. And I don't have to please them. And I think I've said that every time I've made a record where I'm like, I don't care about what people think. But I think this is the only album where I genuinely like don't, because of what it cost me. You know what I mean? I'm just like, it cost me so much to make this album. Like, the people who it's not for, like, that's okay, you know? Like, I know who it's for now. And I think that has changed.
Can I ask you, when you say what it cost me, when you say cost, where did it come from?
Well, it's been really interesting. Like, yeah, it was really interesting. I think like the last record was like, do I want to have children? Like, there was a song called King where it was like, do I want to be a mother? Like, is that even like, can I see myself in that role? Like, I want it, but I'm also defiant of it. And then I think I kind of came to the end of that tour, and I don't know, I felt this like freedom and excitement, and there was a feeling of, I did want to like, you know, I wanted to see if I could try and have a family, you know, after the tour. The tour was like winding down. We only had a month left to go. And then I ended up, which was really wild because, I mean, I do talk about the prescience of songwriting sometimes, but there was this line in King which was like, I never knew my killer would be coming from within. And it was a song about like motherhood. And, you know, I have spoken in the past about the sort of strange, like subconscious prescience of songwriting. But then I actually ended up having a ectopic miscarriage on stage that was dangerous and that I had to be hospitalized for. And I had to have immediate surgery because I had like I had a Coke can of blood in my abdomen, and I didn't want to go to the scan because I just wanted to keep touring. And I was like, I've been through many physical things on stage. I can get through this. And they were like, no, you're coming in to have a scan. And then I was immediately taken into surgery. And I was like, and then I went back on stage 10 days later and like was singing that song, in this like, I don't know how I did that. I think I was just in like a total fog at that point.
Do you think you were just trying to cope? Was that what going back on stage was? Because obviously there would have been people around you that would have given you the grace required to process.
Yeah, I think I didn't want to end the tour. Like I had 2 shows left. And I was like, that's why I was like, I don't want to, something has been taken from me that I didn't want to happen. I don't also want to end my whole tour that I like on this, and yeah, I just like went back and played. It's also going back to the only place that I feel like I could really like feel a sense of control and power again, like ectopic pregnancies are really painful. And before I did the gig, when I didn't know that that's what was happening to me, I was in a lot of pain. And yet I stepped onto the stage and I felt it all just went away, it all went away, like all the pain went away. And there was wind blowing and I was like, whatever is here, it's going to carry me through this moment. And I felt like this presence that's always been with me on stage, like just, and it was outside, it was by the sea, the wind was blowing. It was very gothic. It was like a white lace dress, but really like all the pain just like went away. And I was I just was there and in the mud and the rain and with like these people, and I didn't feel anything, and so and then, so to kind of then go back to the stage just makes sense to me. I kind of want to go back to this place that like, it's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, you'd think something really terrible happening to you would make you not want to go back. But I'm like, no, it's like, it kind of left me more in awe of the power of performance and the power of songwriting than I kind of ever have been before, if you know what I mean, like of how powerful it can be. So yeah, there wasn't really any like doubt in my mind that I would go back and do those 2 shows. That's how I wanted to end the tour. It's fucking crazy.
Life is fucking crazy.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. And it's like creepy. I'm just like, oh no, man, don't like let that bit come true. That's yeah, like, I'm like, that's creepy. I don't like it.
The whole dance fever of it all, though, as you rightly pointed out, was, I'm sure you probably thought at the time, will you tell us, did you think like, okay, this is me actually coming to terms with this part of my life and trying to process like, at what cost, right? How much do I put on into this versus this other side of life, which I really, maybe I want to explore.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself making everybody scream like, oh, I guess this isn't done. Like I've still got to figure stuff out.
I saw a like trauma specialist who, she was like, sometimes the instinct to try and like move past a loss like this is to just try again really quickly. And some people do just do that, but she was like, my advice to you would be, do not try again until you feel like yourself, and so the place that I feel myself is kind of making work, it's kind of the only thing that it's how I've sort of processed everything in my life, is to, if I can create I don't know, I guess this album is my most personal, but it's also one of the like most mythological as well.
Deeply curious.
Yeah.
Deeply curious.
Yeah, I think there was something, it was so kind of bodily what happened to me, and I also, if I'd gotten on the plane to play that festival, which I'm just like a machine. I'm like, no, I can fucking do it. I can do it. I'm such a hypochondriac. Like, as I've said, I'm always like demanding to be taken to the hospital when nothing is happening to me. I'm like, I need to go now. They're like, you're completely fine.
Yeah.
Actually, when something really bad was happening to me, it's serious what happened to me. And I think if I'd gotten on the plane to that festival, they were like, you would have come off on a stretcher or worse. So, but I was totally like that morning, I'd just gone to get a coffee. I was like, I'm going to be fine. And I was like, there's this thing that I think some of the themes that I went to in terms of like, it became so much about like life and death and earth and nature, because I was like, oh, death is just a doorway. Like I was oblivious to it, but it was just there.
Well, we're such delusional creatures, right? And that's what keeps us going, because it's
I
there's
was like,
so much
well,
chaos.
I think I'm gonna be fine.
Yeah, and we completely ignore that there's death around us all the time.
Yeah.
Like, but they're just leaves on the ground. No, they worked really hard to grow to a point of completion, to drop off. And now we just sweep them away like it's nothing. And yet when it comes down to our own existence, it's like a all-consuming experience.
Just like, off to get a coffee. And also just like a sense, there is a feeling when you're coming to the end of the tour, because I'd also broken my foot and played through it. Like I'd broken my foot. I tried to play through it.
But you broke it on stage?
I broke it on stage.
How?
Yeah, actually, I've never broken anything on stage. It's traversing on and off. Like, so I just like ran too fast to get back on the stage, and I hit my foot against a step and cut it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I'm okay. I think I can just get through this. And I looked down at my foot, and there was just like a pool of blood. So I was like, oh no, is this a bad one? And then when I looked at the blood slightly like bubbling up through the toes, I was like,
yeah, it's a lot.
And then basically they were like, there's so gosh, like there was like viral footage of the Portex coming on and like having to like mop up from the stage. We were like, it took them ages. But basically I went off, had it checked. They were like, you wouldn't be able to move. You know, it's a weird thing with me where people are usually like, you should be in more pain, so you're probably fine. But it's that strange like adrenaline mixed with a strange sort of like physical toughness.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I can't see like one like vaguely mean comment and not weep. Like I'm not, like it's weird. I'm like tough in some areas and very sensitive in others.
Yeah, there is definitely a defiance. I think even when you're not breaking your feet or going through really traumatic situations in life and still returning to the stage to perform, let's honor those as really intense life experiences. But from the minute we saw you perform, even as a young person, there was a defiance I always felt on stage of like, I will perform this with everything that I have.
No, it is like, it's almost like I'm like, well, I'm not responsible for what she does. I don't even know what's going to happen.
You disassociate a little bit?
Well, it is a surrender. I think people often ask me like, do you have any spiritual practices? And I do think it's probably the performance is the sort of place where I feel like I do just try and I surrender to something kind of other than me. And it does tend to like allow you to do slightly like inhuman feats, I think.
I'd love to talk a little bit about some of the environments that you were drawn to in order to process, or to write, or to just express. I know that you went and did research at the Warburg Institute, which is super interesting.
Yeah, they have that's the biggest occult library in Britain, I think.
And obviously, like, super fascinating to be able to go back and trace the lineage of image and art and the way
symbolism
and how it ties us all together. Even though if you look at society today, we couldn't feel like we're further away from that. But that must have been very interesting for you just to kind of connect the dots to some degree as a modern person diving into old practice.
I felt so out of control of my body. It was interesting. I looked into like themes of witchcraft and mysticism, and everywhere that you looked in terms of birth or stories of birth, you came across stories of like witchcraft and folk horror and myths, and it just felt like it
deeply misunderstood as well. Like,
yeah. Well, you know, obviously some of the first women tried as witches were midwives. Some of the first women tried as witches were just because they owned property. It was just like, usually they had something that people wanted, so they like had property or land or so they were like, But it was also a lot women living a non-traditional.
As you rightfully said, it would be nice if men found power sexy. Right?
So you have way too many sheep, which so I mean, I did end up just like boiling kind of almost like cauldrons for myself full of herbs, and I needed natural ways to heal as well as the medical things. There's almost just like a sense of trying to find a different, I don't know, I think it was looking into forms of power, you know.
You know, there's almost a timeline here, and maybe at least for me, with Everybody's Scream, beginning is this idea of like performance and connection, but also what you're going through, and the list at the end of the things, you know, that saved you ultimately, which was like the spells, the injections, and all of it rolled into this experience.
Did. Yeah, that was it. It was the whole, like, I needed it all. You know, I did. I needed it all, but the scream of it, you know, the scream at the kind of unfairness of it as well, and the fury, and like, I think I never felt that there were barriers to me, honestly, because of my gender. Like, I just didn't feel them. I feel like I just blasted through like thing after, you know, I was just like, no, I'm just like
defiance again.
Yeah, I just like blasted through it, and it was sort of only when it came to wanting to have a family that I was like, oh fuck, this is going to be different for me. And like kind of the fury at the unfairness of that. And also the sense that like when I tried, the violence of which I was shut out from it, you know, it's like, oh, have I been given this gift, like this enormous gift, which I wanted my whole life. You know, all I wanted to do was sing. But is that somehow going to take something else from me that I would love to have? You know, so I did. It's the scream. I think. I think it is a sort of like cruel age in lots of ways. You know, going the 35 to 40 for women, because it's like you're coming to the peak of your powers. Or like as a professional or as a creative, and at the same time, there is a sense that you're running out of time to have the other things you might want, you know, like family or something else. And I do think that sometimes that feels like a scream.
There's a moment on the record where you talk about death's kiss. Which is very moving, and this moment when and it's almost like you're embracing it in that moment, because it either feels or breathes like life. I can't remember the exact lyric, but
yeah, and it tastes like life.
Tastes like life.
Well, that was that. I really because the closest I came to death was like wanting to make life, you know, and you don't get that without desire. And there was a lot about desire and like where was this feeling going to lead me? And it did feel really magical, you know, like when I was really excited. I think that sometimes the sadness to me is like it did feel magical. I was really excited to, you know, try and start a family. I had wrestled with it. I had wrestled with it on King. I had wrestled with it in Dance Fever, and it felt like this like exciting moment, and it was almost like it so quickly, my mind went quite badly wrong quite fast, you know. So it's almost like there's been a bit of that, it's that sort of grief that experience has sort of been like taken from you, you know, to the sort of sense of being like, oh, let's just see. I'm like, no, that's gone now. But I think what I wanted this record to be is not just a scream, but like an embrace. You know, I think the only thing that goes, the kind of gift in going through something awful is that you can embrace someone who's been through it too, you know? And I think like, it's almost like I had this feeling like I wanted to just put my arms around anyone who had experienced something like this, you know? And I think that is almost like what songwriting is to me, is about making connection and being able to embrace someone even though you're not physically with them.
what was it like actually performing these songs to tape or into the grid or whatever you had to do to capture them? Because it's one thing to write them, it's another thing. Like Perfume and Milk is one of my favorite songs on the record.
That's so...
And it's interesting because I do feel like this album almost goes in movements. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's Everybody's Scream into one of the greats. I sort of like, all right, like I'm kind of still trying to figure out what Defiance means from a performance point of view and how it relates to what happened after. Then we get into the whole spiritual curiosity of it all, like, you know, which is dance, you know,
Sympathy magic.
Sympathy magic.
Yeah.
And then we get into like the healing almost, where it's like Perfume and Milk.
Yeah.
You know, and so what was it like actually recording, like say Perfume and Milk? Because that song to me is like obviously the connection to nature, the idea of healing through being close to other things that grow and fall, and soil, and returning to the earth.
I think it's interesting because that song was actually the furthest from the event. That was like 2 years, I think, 2 years from like when it happened. And so it was like
wow.
It was like processing. It was about healing, and like having watched seasons change and having watched other things like, you know, growing and then returning to the earth, and a sense that like I was also part of that like nature and part of that cycle, and but that also it was a real song about like healing wasn't linear, you know. As I was trying to tie up the album, a lot of like almost like the feelings would suddenly randomly come back. I'd get randomly completely terrified again, or I would just suddenly be like, it's happening again, it's happening again, it's happening, you know, like I would get suddenly like completely terrified. So it was sort of like looking was like, healing is slow, it comes and it goes. Like, and I was like, oh, like it is slow process. And, you know, sometimes something would trip me up and I would feel like I was just like back in that terror. This record, I really just got so much like healing, I think, just from being in like nature. And obviously Aaron's studio is in Hudson Valley in upstate New York, which is like and I stayed in a little house. It was very like The Witch at the Edge of the Woods. Like I stayed in a little house on the edge of town, and I like finished the record with Aaron, and it was a sense that like I was as I was having to kind of look at how I'd heal, look at the songs that I started the record with, look at how it was going to end, and like, yeah, like piece myself together, you know? And I wanted to put in lots of natural flora and fauna on this record from like, we looked into a lot of like folk songs as well, because there's that amazing period of 70s folk where they're all like into the occult, you know, like Judy Sill, and there's an amazing book called Electric Eden, which is like how when like folk and mysticism all started crossing over. And so we were looking a lot of that at that period of time as well. And yeah, I was just like exploring all these different themes. But yeah, that song kind of came out of like those kind of things.
Can we talk a little bit about like the process of recording it with Aaron, but just to actually get to the point of singing these songs and performing them, and how Aaron made it feel safe?
So this record started in South London. So I started it in South London, and a lot of the like early stuff and the demos was recorded in South London. Yeah, me and Bowen sort of started it in South London, and then it was kind of like starting to make it in fits and starts as Bowen was on tour, I was on tour, he would go away, Mitski would come to the studio and South. Like people kind of came by when they were in London, like Ethel came and did backing vocals on One of the Greats. So like Bowen would go off on tour, and then I would kind of keep chipping away at the songs that we had. And then it just gets to that process with a record where you can no longer see the wood for the trees. You know, I think it was One of the Greats that broke us.
Yeah, not surprised.
That song was written in one take, but it took 3 years to finish.
Yeah. But you did it in one take?
Me and Bowen did it in one take. It's the guitar and vocal together. And the guitar and vocal are together.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever sung the song.
Such a fuck you riff as well.
I didn't know. Yeah,
so
I think he like had a riff, and he was like, I've got this riff. So he just started playing the riff, and then I started singing, and then the song just happened.
Yeah.
And we always meant to re-record it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
But it made it a nightmare to produce, like an absolute nightmare, because the time signatures are all over the place. It's slow, it's like speeds up and then it slows down again and then it speeds up again, and like it does time jumps. The tuning is wild. I think someone texted me, be like, oh my God, I love that key change. I was like, none of that is intentional. None of that is intentional. But it's imperfection. Like when we tried to put it in time, it lost something. When we tried to put it in tune, it lost something. So we needed an absolute wizard to come on board and to help like take that song to the transcendent level it needed to go to without taking away any of its rawness. And I think Aaron is probably the only person that could have done that. Like he just kind of got it, I think. He was like, no, there's not like replaying that needs to be done. It's like tiny, like, and I think him and his engineer Bella spent literally like days just like micro moving drums, like micro, it was tiny. But yeah, basically when I spoke to him about that track, I was like, oh, okay, like Aaron, because it's quite like a weird like project. Like it was so wild. Some of it was like so out of tune, and I was like, but we need to keep all that.
Yeah.
Some of the sounds were technically like incredibly like ugly or brutal, and I was like, no, it was like an ugly and brutal experience in parts. Like we need those sounds. But I think it was a confusing record for some people, but Aaron completely understood it. He was like, no, I get this. So yeah, I went out to his studio to finish it up, and it helped that like me and Bowen were like huge fans of The National, you know, so it all just kind of made sense. And yeah, I went out there and spent like a month with Aaron kind of finishing it up and tying it together. Because there was also like, I was also working with Danny Hall, so there was an electronic element, like I'd worked with Mitski, like, but I was like, with Dance Fever, because of the pandemic, I hadn't been able to get in a room with like one producer and just finish a whole record together. And that actually was incredibly distressing on that record. Like we were all separated, we couldn't even get to each other. Like a lot of it had to be finished remotely. I was like, I am never doing that again.
Yeah.
Because it left me with like I don't know if anyone else can, but I can hear in that record when the pandemic starts.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that's when
Yeah.
that's when the pandemic started. Like I can like hear it. And I was like, oh my God, that's where it starts. And so with me, it was like that record was about trying to make a record out of this incredibly fractured period of time where you were really isolated from each other. And I didn't get to finish it in a room with one producer. It was kind of like pulled together in lots of different ways.
I can imagine sitting with Aaron or being with Aaron in the final stages with you and Bowen and Mitski, and you've all created this kind of, okay, it's all here. We just have to put it together.
Yeah, I was like, it's all here. We've got these incredible sounds, like these incredible people. But I just need like a focused month where we put it all together, which is now actually quite old school. Like it's quite like old school. Like, you know, I think almost since the pandemic, doing things remotely or finishing up is kind of like normal now.
You couldn't on a record
I'm like,
like
no,
this.
it sends me crazy. I don't want to do that.
You couldn't on a record like this. I mean, just the notes back and forth to get it to keep its personality, but
I'm
also
too
get structure.
obsessive. Like
6 months just to get one song into a place where it feels good.
I would have spent another month in Upstate, and Aaron was like, it's done.
It's done.
He's like, you're already the person who spent the longest amount of time here. Like, I was like, I'm going to stay. He was like, you can go home. It's done.
But it must have been really emotional at times hearing the songs come together because, as you said at the very beginning of our conversation, it was almost a fog, a process.
Yeah, I think I was very I think I was really angry when I recorded. I can't quite remember. There's like 6 months where I just like, it was quite a blurry year, but I think I just remember being like really pissed off. I was like, oh, now you want me to fucking sing? After everything I've been through, now I have to sing.
And who are you talking to, yourself?
Just myself.
Yeah.
Or just like, I think I was like, it was weird. I think I was like moody about getting in the vocal booth or whatever.
I'm not surprised. I mean, this is the wrestling I feel that we've been hearing to some degree in your music, which is just like, I want to honor this gift. I want to honor this opportunity to reach people and these words and this voice, but at the same time.
Do you know what? It was interesting. I was scared it was good. It was amazing. I got a little scared to push myself vocally because I thought something would break. Because when something breaks on stage, you think everything's going to break. And actually it was kind of like, but I think I did actually end up doing that, like almost like as a furious test of like my abilities, you know, and but actually then being really annoyed with myself because like, now I'm gonna have to fucking perform this live. When you hit a note, like there's a note in Sympathy Magic, like but you're like belting full out, and as I did it, I was like, this is gonna fuck me up. You know?
Well, I mean, you can have it all. I mean,
and you can have it all as well.
All.
So I do think when I was in there, I was doing it, but I was also like, future me is gonna be so annoyed with this, you know, because it's gonna. But do you know what? That I've actually been going back to opera training because what had started to happen was I'd started to tense up as I was hitting high notes out of fear of breaking something.
Vocally.
Yeah, and actually that's the worst thing that you can do. And I went back to opera and she was like, everything is there. You can hit all, like, just relax. And that's been really amazing. And so performing those songs after that, like I felt like a part of me was coming back to me. You know, I was starting to trust my body again.
That fear of breaking something, do you know what that's rooted in? Like, obviously, the inability to sing would be devastating, but the fear's got to come from somewhere, right? Because it probably wasn't there when you were younger. You wouldn't.
Oh, no, I didn't care. Like, I just like.
A few pints down the Camden Lock and you'd have smacked the shit out of it, right? Like,
yes, I was quite drunk. I was quite drunk, so he didn't like. I was like totally like, you know. There was this line from a song that I didn't end up using, which is like Whirling Dervish with a Death Wish. You know, I just didn't like, I didn't think about it, like the situations I put myself in or whatever, like, but that was a song about my like young self, which was like Whirling Dervish with a Death Wish. And yeah, I just didn't like, there was a part of me that didn't really want to exist. So I had like no care for myself or whatever. But you do have this crazy, like, I think I just got to an age where I'm like, oh, like life is fragile, and stuff had started to happen to me. I think it's also if you've been sort of lucky enough to have been cocooned in some way from the big tragedies of life, if they have been lucky enough to like have not encroached upon you, once you get over 35, like stuff's gonna start happening. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've just got to the age where stuff starts to happen, like the big stuff, the life and death stuff. And I think in some ways it has sort of made my connection to work and performance like deeper. And in other ways I'm like, fuck, I need to start actually training. You know, I'm just like, oh, I think I have more respect for my body and what I put it through. Like I just used to not train for tour. The shows will sort it out. The first 3 shows will be tough, but then I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't get into this job to be like disciplined. You know, I've got no discipline really. And it's having to learn discipline as you get older in order to just like keep performing at your highest level, you know?
That's a real letting go process. The album finishes in a place, to me at least, which feels like a realization, a letting go of a preconception of what love was going to be. And that really, it can exist in ways that one could never really truly have imagined when they were young and trying to sort of control the narrative, right?
Yes. I mean, and love was like, when I wrote that song, I was like, okay, so if the songs have this like terrible prescience, you know, if they have this power, if they are spells or manifestations or, you know, prayers, let this one be the one that comes true. You know, like let this one be the one that is realized in the world, not just for myself, but just for everyone, you know, just for like, so, and after an album that is so full of like desire and fury and has this like, ache. Like I think the word scream is in every song in some capacity. Like it's there, like it's threaded through in so many ways that I wanted to end it on just this sense of like peace and resting and getting to breathe out. I think there's so much like primal sort of panting energy in some of the songs, and I wanted this to just sound like a breath out at the end of it.
I love the sense of possibility at the end of this album. It's emotional to listen to because, you know, there's so much life lived in so many ways through the making of it and listening to it. But at the end, it does just feel, at least to me, like there is a lot of sort of hope and a lot of opportunity to live the life you want to live. How does it feel to you?
I think like the songs are always like 3 steps ahead of me. It's been that my whole life. It's sort of like going back to Delilah, like I'm going to be free and I'm going to be fine, but maybe not tonight. You know, it's like wrestling with addiction but the song's kind of like, you're going to be okay. Not tonight. Tonight you're in Miami.
Yeah.
But you're going to be okay. And it's also just like, okay, maybe love is not about the chase. Maybe contentment is not about the chase and achievement and, you know, the feeling like it's never quite good enough, try again. I was like, maybe surrendering to something and more like resting than running. Peace is coming, you know, like, and I'm hoping that, and again, like it is like, I have a projection of a future, you know, that where I feel at peace. But I don't know.
Oh, no buts.
I'll say that.
No buts.
I don't know that because I'm just like, I wonder if it's just like this constitution thing where I'd be like, finally, yes, I made it. And like, I have a family and I'm at peace. I'm like, I need to get back on stage. I don't know if there's like there's a Martha Graham quote, which I've been thinking about a lot on this record, which is divine dissatisfaction. And that's creativity. And it's the thing that keeps us going. It's this sense that like, it just keeps propelling you forward to make more things, to make new discoveries, like constant curiosity, constant like want to evolve and change. But it does come from some restless spirit or something. But I'm hoping, I'm really hoping that And Love is the one that comes true next. please. None of the scary ones now. Thank you. Okay, just the nice ones. Only the nice ones, just for a bit.